Hey, I'm McKenna.
And I'm Cass.
And this is Call You in 5.
Man, I am so excited. We're like doing another episode together.
Yes.
This is so nice. Can we start over? I shouldn't have said I'm so excited again. Okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hey, I'm McKenna.
And I'm Cass.
And this is Call You in 5.
It feels so good to be back in your house recording another episode, like having 10 days to be in town and get to hang out.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
It's kind of been a while since we've been back in our routine.
We recorded a couple in San Diego, but that like wasn't in our routine.
No.
That was like out of the norm.
And then we each recorded a solo too. So
I know, this is really nice. I love the fall. Like, even with like seasons changing, I feel like this is such a great time of year to have a conversation around burnout. But what are some of your favorite things about like seasons changing that comes with this time of year?
Well, I think it feels so refreshing to just have a new season. You get to revamp your wardrobe a little bit, pull out clothes from the closet that you haven't worn in a while, but also just the crisp air in the morning in Colorado is like nothing else.
I know.
It does get hot during the day, but the evenings are amazing. We just like open up the windows at night to cool the place down.
Yeah.
And the mornings are like my favorite time to go on a walk with Leela because it just feels so good. You can still wear a sweatshirt. You're not too hot.
Yeah.
What about you?
I had an early morning thing today, and so I got to like have that crisp fall air. I've been like getting over a cold, so I have not been like getting up very early like the last couple weeks to like experience it, and so I'm just like literally sweating all day. I'm like, why is it so hot?
It does get hot.
It to cool down.
Yeah, Colorado does get hot still.
Yeah.
In the middle of the day.
But I love fall. I think I'm a big summer girl for sure, but like taking advantage of like the Trader Joe's experience, like all the aisles of like pumpkin flavored thing. Like no one does fall like Trader Joe's.
No one. Yeah.
And so I had the most chaotic but joy-filled experience, like with all the seasonal items. I got so many cards. Like I just had the time of my life when really all I needed was some apple cider donuts.
Oh, I did the same thing at Trader Joe's earlier this week. I went for one thing.
Yeah.
And came out with like a whole grocery load.
Yeah. And then you're like, but I still need my basics. I only have sugar or whatever. I think fall is also like, it's really like sweet to have like the refreshing change of season, but I always also feel so much pressure in the fall around like, how do I get all the things done that I said I was going to do when I like set out to do things in January? Do you feel that?
Right. Like kind of at the end of the year, everything is all of a sudden weighing on your shoulders that it needs to get done before the end of the year.
And like, because before you know it, like we are like in October now, right? Like that we are in Q4 of the year. Like it's going to be the holidays. Literally next month starts the holidays.
Yeah.
I can hear it now. The jingle bells are coming. And I think because there's so much pressure, I think when I look back over like specifically my last like 4 or 5 falls, like specifically since I've come to Colorado, but maybe even like a little before then, I have put so much pressure on myself in that last couple months to get all this stuff done that I have totally experienced burnout. And so it's like, it's so good to have this conversation because I'm sure that there's other people who are listening who are like, I might be experiencing burnout, but I'm not quite sure.
Well, and this is like the busiest time for your business, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that on top of it is
kind of
just,
correlates.
Yeah. For me, it kind of starts to slow down around the holidays, which I'm lucky for, but I do still feel that pressure to like get everything in line to kick off the next year.
Yeah.
So I can feel you on that.
Totally. Should we talk about like what burnout feels like in our lives?
Yeah. What was the recent time that you have felt burnout?
I think like the most recent like dramatic time of burnout was a year ago this time. I had just quit a job. I just ended a relationship and started a new like temporary contract role that was way more than I bargained for. I like know you remember this season really well.
Yeah.
Of like I was still traveling a little bit for her sorority journey, but I was spending like at least 100 hours a week. Like
You were busy.
I was very busy and like going to bed, finishing like posts and like finishing like campaigns, waking up to like 40 unread text messages, like getting like 6 hours of sleep a night. Like I was working so hard and didn't give myself like any time or space for like the things that actually bring me joy and like balance, whatever balance means to you, right? Like that keep me like grounded in who I am and what matters most. And I remember coming out of that season feeling like a shell of myself. Like the day that contract role ended, I like felt so derived of like purpose or like community or any kind of like connection to myself, but there was still the lingering of like anxiety of like all the things that needed to get done that didn't exist anymore. Like there was nothing left on the to-do list, but I still felt the like withdrawal of hurry and like accomplishment. What about you? What does like burnout look like for you?
Well, I think for me, I can't think of like an exact moment. I mean, there's so many times that I've had burnout. Yeah. For sure. But
not always fun to call them to mind.
No, not necessarily. But I feel like just constantly I'm definitely an overachiever. I definitely like to be busy, and I definitely like to work. And also I'm a yes person. Like I say yes to everything. Like I think I can do everything. And so oftentimes that leads to burnout because my first and foremost priority is obviously being a mom. And then I have work on top of that, school on top of that, being a wife, home things. All of that is just like this constant to-do list.
Totally.
In my mind that like never shuts off. Even like in the middle of the night recently, I've been waking up, oh my gosh, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. So like, I think just constantly I can see myself recognizing the signs of burnout in myself. And so I just have to constantly remind myself, okay, take a break. It's okay to sit down and watch your favorite TV show. It's okay to go on a walk and listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
That you want to listen to, not because it's a school project that you have to listen to,
Yeah.
So I actually, for this podcast, kind of wrote out some signs of burnout because I think that is like the key to avoiding it, right?
Yeah.
You have to know the signs. You have to be able to recognize the signs in order to avoid it. Otherwise, you're going to hit burnout every time.
Or like call it what it is, right? Like if you are like, sometimes the signs are helpful too, to be like, okay, this is where I'm at. I can name it and recognize it. And then you can like do something about it, right?
Yes.
Instead of just being like, I don't know, the forgetfulness that you're talking about, not to like, hopefully this is like helpful, right? To like recognize like, oh, these like people I'm listening to a podcast are also like dealing with this same
relatable
things.
Yeah.
That I feel, because when you're talking about the like, oh my gosh, I forgot to do that. I'm that way. I've been feeling that way even recently, and I am in such a healthier place than I was like a year ago. But I think sometimes we can like burnout is also like on a continuum sometimes of like, there's certain signs that like can help us move into a place of like more like groundedness and like purpose. But like if we keep going down that path, it's going to lead to like more extreme burnout. Yes. What are some of the signs that you come up with?
Some of the signs that you want to recognize are persistent fatigue. Like if you're constantly tired, constantly overwhelmed, you're kind of headed down that route. Yeah. For sure. And then reduced performance and productivity. So if you're just not being as productive as you normally are, increased irritability or frustration, loss of interest in what you are normally interested in, which is like a huge sign. Yeah. Like if you kind of feel like you're losing yourself, it might be because your priorities are not in the place that they necessarily need to be. Or maybe they are, but it's just you're taking on too much, Physical symptoms always can be the cause of like overworking yourself, such as headaches, just loss of digestive issues or whatever it may be. And then neglect of self-care or taking time for yourself. Yeah. So those are all just kind of signs to pay attention to.
I think the tired one, like my mom's called me out on that before. Like oftentimes when I don't want to deal with things or like talk about the root cause behind things, I say like, I'm tired. And it's true, I'm tired, but that's not necessarily like the problem. Like there's a deeper root cause that's like causing exhaustion, or like that's causing irritability, that's causing like my body just like stop processing food the right way. Right. Or like loss of appetite, weight gain, weight loss, like a lot of increased sleep, a lot of decreased sleep. Like I think any like dramatic shifts are like a sign like, hey, I need to like pay attention. Something's going on here. And I think like the signs are really helpful to recognize like, okay, I am not like living the life either productively, purposefully, or whatever your criteria is for like a happy and like fulfilled life that I want to be. But I think like the next step to that is, okay, this is the sign, but then like what's the cause? Like why am I like pushing myself to like achieve or strive with such intensity? And I have found that there are typically, like when I've experienced burnout, I don't know about you, there's like lies that I'm believing that are like asking me or requiring that I accomplish so much so that I'm like earning someone's like respect or trust, instead of like living from a place of it, right? I think when we are looking for our identity in others' approval or in accomplishment, we will like always feel depleted, right? Because I believe like every single one of you that are listening, you have everything you need to be successful, like exactly as you are. But so often we live to strive to like please others instead of ourselves. Glennon Doyle has this brilliant quote, and she says, disappoint as many people as it takes to not disappoint yourself. But we don't do that, right? We're like, if everyone else isn't disappointed, like I can cope with like not getting everything that I wanted. It's like they can cope too. Like if you cope all the time with like not getting your needs met, like so can they. Like if you don't get something done on time or like have to set boundaries with people in your life to have some like pretty fundamental needs met, then they'll be able to handle it, right? Like it's not like, no, it's not life or death. I'm assuming, unless you like work in medicine, right? Like typically it's like, it's not life or death. And so like helping set like more realistic truths around your life. And I think specifically burnout from a place of like work, and your like profession, I have found that I operate more sometimes, or I'm more prone to operate from a place of like overlapping who I am with what I do, like finding identity, purpose, and worth in the things I do versus like who I am and getting like as Cassie, getting to like contribute to my profession versus being fulfilled by my profession. And so I think another like really good truth to hold on to is like, you are not what you do, you get to do what you do.
I like that. And
separating who you are from what you do can help be like a root change to help you like move forward in confronting burnout long term without allowing that to repeat. Because just saying like, okay, this is a sign of burnout, what do I do about it? I'm just gonna like do all these quick fixes. That's great. But if we haven't like dealt with like the heart issues first, then it's gonna be really easy to fall back into that pattern again in the future.
Yeah, totally. Just if you're saying like you're tired, going to bed isn't gonna fix the problem. It's just putting a Band-Aid on it.
Totally. Yeah.
Actually, all the stuff that you're speaking about and saying that it's not life or death, right? I actually have been doing that a lot lately, in terms of work and household things, and all of that can get overwhelming. And so I have to constantly remind myself like, okay, if the laundry doesn't get folded today, or maybe if I don't get to wash my hair today, I just get a body shower, you know what I mean? It is not the end of the world. If I didn't finish everything on my to-do list, it's not the end of the world. I kind of have to remind myself that every day.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the dishes pile up in the sink, and sometimes, you know, things that are not at the top of my priority, like making sure Leela has food, like that is the top of the priority, right? Like everything else can come second, you know what I mean? And sometimes I usually try to film UGC content or brand deals or ads that I'm doing during her nap time. And some days I don't do that because I'm exhausted and I need a break. And so I'm like, the ads can wait. Like, it's okay if I do it tomorrow instead of today, you know? Just, it's okay.
Well, and I think too, like, even like you're talking about, like, you are allowing your priorities to like dictate your schedule instead of trying to like schedule every like second or minute of your day to like fit your priorities. I think sometimes we like get it wrong, and we say like the solution to burnout or the solution to being more productive is just I just have to be better at managing my time. I think like time management's a myth. Is important for sure, but I think we are wasting our time by trying to manage our time, and a more effective strategy is managing your priorities. It's like, okay, what are the most important things? And like, if those things get met, how can I reprioritize or set clearer expectations for the people who need me in these lower priorities on my list, so that they're not like consistently being let down, and have like a realistic time frame from you, but you can also operate from a place of like confidence really in like how you're spending your time and energy. I love that. I think that's so good about like giving yourself grace.
But it's not necessarily easy. Like,
no,
you know, especially from somebody who says yes to everything.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but
and who
it
loves
feels
to
good.
Work.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like you. Like I love to work. Like I love feeling like a contributor to the things that I do. And so when it's like, I actually don't have it in my tank to whip out another video or whatever. Right. It's like or fold the laundry. Like I just like need to like recoup me, myself, and I. It can be a hard thing that lets people down sometimes, but It's your priorities.
But also I will say, like, folding the laundry, I hate folding laundry. And so it like piles up. I always put it on our bed because I plan on folding it, and then we push it off when we go to bed, and it sits there for like a couple days. Well, it had piled up, and this morning I was like, oh, I really do not want to fold this laundry. But I made it like an experience. So I brought Leela upstairs, I put her in bed, and I turned on Miss Rachel, which, you know, I don't like to turn to TV for watching her, but like, you know what? Life's going to go on. You know what I mean? So turn on Miss Rachel, gave her bottle, and her and I just sat in bed and I folded laundry, and it was literally like, it just felt so magical. Yeah. It really did. It was so much fun. And
make yourself a chai.
I did.
You?
It was like, it was really fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, Leela started like playing with, you know, my watch and like, that's why I'm not wearing it right now, but like things on the bed, and, you know, it was just fun. It was really fun. It didn't drain my cup folding laundry.
Yeah.
You know, if you can kind of just make it fun. Do something to make the task you don't want to do fun. And it was actually really fun.
What are some other, I'm sure you have some other ideas of like what some solutions are
I do.
if you're like finding yourself in this place and need more creative ways to get out of a place of burnout.
Yeah. So I made a list of 8 things, and I figure we can just kind of talk about them as we go down. So the first thing I wrote is setting boundaries, which we've kind of touched on that a little bit, but set boundaries. Like at some point something has to give, especially if you're getting close to burnout. And it's okay to say no, you know?
I'm so bad at that.
Me too.
I think the no is so important because every yes is a no to something else, right? When we say yes to appeasing someone, that's a no to our like, maybe like your hair shower, right? Or like your everything shower, or it's a no to like a evening walk with Leela or whatever. Like some of those things that like matter a lot to you, or like I think about my life, right? Like when I say yes to hanging out with a friend, that's no for like a night in by myself that I like rarely get because I'm traveling so much. So you just have to like evaluate those things. So I think setting boundaries is really good.
Yeah, which can be really hard. But I mean, even if you have to pull out a pen and paper and write down like your thoughts and kind of process it and figure out what your boundaries are. Another thing is prioritize self-care. Like you were just talking about a night in. I think that honestly sounds amazing. You know, like whenever you can do that, like go get your nails done, or even just 5 minutes, go in the morning and get yourself a Starbucks. I know that like, go get yourself that coffee that you've been wanting that's going to make you feel better, and kind of just like refill up your cup for a little bit. Even if it's just something small, watch your favorite TV show. Self-care could be in any way, like a bath, like people, you know, make a bubble bath or whatever.
Yeah. And
it could be anything.
I think we've like, as a culture, like as society, like overly romanticize self-care. Like you have to earn it or like work hard enough to like deserve it. And I'm like all for the bubble baths and face masks, but like you don't have to wait until the end of the day, or you don't have to wait until like, I don't know, you feel like you've earned the time to like take a bubble bath. I think it's really hard to think about how to incorporate self-care into like every day, maybe even like twice a day. It's like, self-care can be like a morning walk, or like reconnecting with a friend or your mom over the phone on your like morning commute, instead of like, I don't know, getting those last couple texts sent. I think it can also look like exercise, right? For like the purpose of like refueling yourself, not like trying to meet a body image standard or something, but like really to how you feel.
Or not even trying to PR, like just going to the workout to feel good, you know?
Just to feel good. I also think cooking, I like talk to my like college girls about this all the time. Like I think like working with your hands, especially if you have a computer job where you are like, or like us on our phones all the time, like it can feel so good to work with your hands and like feel the food and the vegetables and like put things together and be creative, like use a different part of your brain. 'Cause I think when we don't do that and we just push ourselves every minute and try to like max out our productivity and get ourselves this place of burnout, and then we say, okay, well, I'm going to take my whole Saturday off just to enjoy, you're still going to be like coming down off that like hustle and the high of productivity all week. You won't actually be able to like experience that rest until like maybe Saturday evening if you've like set that whole day aside. Like, I don't know, there's some like teachers that I like, faith teachers that I've listened to who talk a lot about this concept of hustle withdrawal. But when we help regulate ourselves, when we like practice self-care in the busyness, like in the productivity, then we can actually like move into a place of rest if we take a Saturday off, to really just like enjoy and delight, or have an evening with a friend. We can like turn off our work brain easier when we do that more frequently in smaller doses. Like when we regulate that, like You don't need to earn self-care. Like,
no.
Put it in little bites and pieces so that when you do like work up to those big things that you want to like really treat yourself to, you aren't still like trying to get yourself off the high of productivity.
Well, even like I was talking about this morning, like making folding laundry like fun. That really did feel like self-care to me. Like it was just something that I dread all week, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually so much fun.
Yeah. Because I don't know. Everything feels like work, you're gonna get more drained. So you made it like less worky.
And it didn't. It felt kind of like self-care almost because I made myself a home chai, you know, and spent time with Leela. I feel like she just kind of fills my cup. She also drains it, but she fills it. You know, that was just like so much fun. And she's
I feel like Miss really Rachel is like self-care for you.
Miss Rachel is. I like. Every mom will understand it. Lifesaver.
I love that.
And when I really need it and I turn it on, she loves it. So it just is a lifesaver sometimes when I need it. Another thing that I wrote down, and we kind of already touched on this, was learn to say no. So we kind of already talked about that. Do you have anything
boundaries.
You want to say?
No, I think that's
or add
great.
to that? Saying no does not make you mean. That's really all I have to say is it doesn't make you mean. Practice mindfulness. So like meditation, working out, we kind of talked about that. You don't have to work out to PR every time, like we said. You don't have to work out to punish yourself. You don't have to work out.
Yeah.
Like work out because it feels good. So find a workout that feels good, and it's going to feel more like resetting, filling up your cup if you like the workout.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like mindfulness is a form of self-care, right? Like giving yourself an opportunity to like check in with like where you're at and what you need to be successful that day. I do feel like mindfulness and being unplugged are pretty connected though. Like it's hard to be mindful when you're like inundated with notifications or like other people's needs or requests of you. And so like I like to try to find like at minimum hour a day that like I like honestly I try to start like the first hour of my day and the last hour of my day without like any access to my phone. Not to check anything, not to answer any calls, like it's not like I'm on my phone for the other like 10 hours or whatever, but it's like, it's just really distant so that I can like, I like to pray and like experience the voice of God, but also like hear myself. Like it's good. Like when you work out, like hearing your own heartbeat and like feeling like the depth of your breath in your lungs. Like there's like power in that. That's like helps you reconnect to yourself.
I feel like mindfulness is just being present in what you have right now. Like when you're on social media, you're present in somebody else's like reality. You know what I mean? And maybe not even their real reality, right? Like, kind of a thing.
Their highlight reel.
Yeah. So you're like not present in where you are right now. So in my mind, being mindful is like being in your own world, being present. I don't know. I try to go to a yoga class every Wednesday night, and I just feel like I check out from everything, and it's slower. Like a lot of those workouts that I go to are like very fast paced, and my mind is constantly working on the next thing. But during yoga, I'm like, my mind is wandering, even though I know a lot of people practice to bring it back. I kind of like that. Just like, I'm in my own mind. I'm in my own thoughts. I'm present, you know, I don't know. I feel like that feels really good.
You have to give your brain space to like filter through information and process things and grieve things and celebrate things so it like all gets filed in the right place in your brain. Like there's a lot of different like therapy practices about that help file certain memories in the right parts of your brain to like help you process those like experiences, seasons of your life better. So it sounds like that's what you get to do in yoga, which is cool.
Well, and we live in a world where people like go to the doctor's office or something, and while they're waiting, they're like on their phone. You know what I mean? And I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah.
So
or like
it's kind of nice to just stand there. Yeah, in line. If you're in line at the grocery store, just stand there and like pay attention to what's around you. And I actually did this one time on accident. My phone died or it got locked in my car or something. I didn't have it, and I was sitting outside of my car. I think it got locked in my car, and I was locked out of my car.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah, because you were trying to get a hold of me.
Yeah, I had to sit for like an hour.
Yeah,
I had to sit for an hour and wait for Joey to come get me or bring me the keys. And I was just sitting there present, and it was like a really beautiful space. So that like helped. It was like beautiful mountain view and stuff. And this girl came up to me and she's like, wow, like this is so inspiring to see somebody not on their phone, like just sitting and enjoying nature. And I was like, you know, it feels really good, but I was forced into it. It wasn't by accident.
Yeah.
And then I met her and we started talking, and I don't know, you just like meet more people when you're not like on your phone.
That is so good. That's actually been one of my like goals or things that I've been like a lot more mindful of this year has been like not putting my AirPods in until I the flight takes off. So, like, when I'm in line, I do Southwest. So I'm, like, in my little spot in line. I'm, like, making conversation with people around me or the people who are aware. Like, when you aren't on your phone, you can actually connect with the world around you. And instead of doing that, like, superficially on social media, not to say those aren't real people, but, like, those are the highlight reels of their lives. Actually meeting people, like, talking about where they're traveling to or the experiences they came from or where they're going, like, you gain so much more perspective and are able to, like, think about your own life so much with such better, like, perspective when you are more engaged with people around you.
I actually met a really good friend on a flight once.
Really?
And we're still friends. Like,
yeah, I love that. Like, I think sometimes, like, we can really catastrophize our situations when we aren't, like, super present with others. Like, so it, like, puts things into perspective. Yeah. And you can get some really good friends out of it. Yeah. Yeah, I've, like, connected with a bunch of people on social media from flights this year. Like, it's so fun.
Yeah. I actually met this guy on a flight, like, probably, like, 6 or 7 years ago. And then when I moved to Utah, he was, like, a built-in friend. Like, I was already friends with him, you know, and he was a content creator, videographer. So it was, like, easy to become friends with somebody who did a lot of the same things as I did. But, like, he actually created some really awesome content for me when I lived in Utah. And anyways, it was just cool because I didn't have my headphones in, you know. I think I had forgotten them again by accident, and I made a really good friend out of that, and we, like, chatted the whole flight. But anyways, another thing that I have written down is seeking support, and that can look very different in a lot of settings. So, like, in a work setting, that could be delegating, that could be outsourcing. In, like, a home setting as a mom, that could be asking your family for help, hiring a cleaner, like, you know, like, different things. I haven't gone there yet, but I would really like to. I've been considering it. So just, like, different things that can help you out, seek support in those areas.
Yeah, I think it can look, like, really tangible, like delegating tasks or, like, getting things off your plate. But I think support can also look like having friends or family members in your corner who are like, hey, are you okay? Like, I feel like you're taking on too much. There were some people in my life last fall in my small group at church who had shared with me after, like, my contracted period ended, like, Cass, if this didn't have an end date, like, I was going to have a conversation with you about, like, your well-being, because you could not have continued at this pace much longer. Like, I was really worried about you. And it actually made me, like, one, I was, like, a little embarrassed that I had, like, worked myself that hard, that I'd made my friends worried. But it actually made me feel really loved and cared for, that people would call me out, felt comfortable enough to call me out if I was doing something that was, like, unhealthy or unsafe, like, in terms of working too hard or taking on too much or having unrealistic expectations of myself that could be, like, detrimental. So I think it can, like, both be really tangible and even just, like, conceptual of, like, I love you. Are you okay? You know?
I think that's great. No, I think that's really good. Also reevaluating your goals. Like, if something doesn't align with your goal, for one, you can say no to it. But two, if you're, you know, you change as a human as life goes on, as time goes on, your goals can change. So, like, constantly reevaluating them and saying, is this something that I actually really want? Or am I seeking external validation? Am I, whatever it may be. You just, like, constantly reevaluating why you're working for something and make sure that it is in alignment with who you are, what you stand for, what you want.
Yeah, that's so good. I think for me, that goes back to, like, the managing time versus managing priorities. Like, I am so guilty of taking on so much. And that's actually, I think, why my word of the year this year was simplicity, of, like, simplifying all the things I said I wanted to do, because I'm a very ambitious person. Like, I can goal set all day long, but it doesn't mean I have more time in the day to, like, get those things accomplished. So I think that's super good. Like, figure out what matters most and build your calendar around it first as, like, the rocks of your week. And then what else? What are the other goals that you have? Maybe some of those need to take a back burner for a season, right? Not to say that you'll never write the book, you'll never do the podcast, you'll never go viral on TikTok, whatever you want to do, like, or whatever you want to get good at golf or whatever, like, start a new hobby. Maybe this just isn't the season to accommodate that. If you have some bigger priorities, like, probably include, like, personal, family, professional. Sometimes others need to take a back seat. You can't, like, do every fun thing in every season.
Yeah, sometimes I want to.
Yeah,
but I need to learn that I can't.
I know, me too.
And then the last thing that I wanted to reiterate is taking breaks, which can go along with pretty much everything else we've talked about, right? And you don't need to earn those breaks. Like you were saying, you know, take breaks as you need it, and short or long, a day off, a couple hours off in the middle of your day. I always give myself a little break after I finish a homework assignment. Each homework assignment, I'm like, okay.
I did it.
Yep.
I think everything else we've talked about really supports that. Like having people in your life that want to see you take breaks, like building in self-care rituals into your life that like help you balance the things that you are like doing productively, and recognizing that like taking a break is a form of productivity because it's like fueling yourself, but then also like the mindfulness piece, recognizing that like who you are is not a result of how productive you are. So like not everything needs to be looked at through a lens of like what it's doing for someone else. Like you're allowed to just like live and be a human. So I think that's really good.
Yeah. And being mindful, like, and when you're just like lost in your own thoughts, like on yoga night for me, sometimes I come up with really good ideas, you know, that I wouldn't have come up with if I didn't give myself space to think and I was just on my phone scrolling to fill time.
Yeah. I think our minds need space to think creatively. Steph, who we talk about on the podcast all the time because she's the reason we're friends, told me when COVID first started, she's like a fellow business owner friend, it's so hard to be creative when you're tired. And for like creative or thoughtful problem solving, like our brains need space to like think those things through. So it is a form of productivity in its own way. And sometimes like if I'm not in work mode, but I do have like a like blip of genius, like a moment of like a light bulb moment, then I will like write it down in my notes and be like, I'll come back to this later. I don't need to act on this right now, but I want to keep the idea. Yeah. Well, I loved this. This was really good even for me, like to reflect on, and hopefully it was helpful for you all. I know this can be like a burnout season for a lot of people, so don't get burned out. Hang in there. See you next week.
See you guys. We'll talk to you next week.
You're like the summer in June. Amongst the stars, you're an earth to the moon.